Welcome back to our channel. Today we are talking about the year was 1980, a time of change in the United States. The economy was facing challenges, gold and silver prices were skyrocketing, and the value of the dollar was shifting. Yet, in the middle of all this, a small copper coin that most people hardly noticed was being minted in massive numbers. This coin was the 1980 Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it seemed like any ordinary penny, the kind that passed through the hands of millions of Americans every single day. But in the world of coin collecting, even the most ordinary-looking coin can hold extraordinary secrets, and in the case of the 1980 Lincoln cent, it has become one of the most sought-after rare pennies, with a current market value that has stunned collectors and investors alike, reaching a jaw-dropping $11 million. To truly understand why this penny is so valuable, we need to look back at the history of the Lincoln cent. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny quickly became an iconic piece of American currency. Its obverse side features the profile of the 16th president, designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse originally carried the wheat ears, later replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. By 1980, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had already been in use for over 20 years. But even though billions of Lincoln cents were struck every year, not all of them were created equal. Mint errors, variations in strike, differences in composition, and even small details in the minting process could transform a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. The 1980 Lincoln penny came out of the Denver Mint, one of the busiest U.S. mints in the country. Billions of coins were struck there, and most of them were perfectly ordinary. Yet a few, just a tiny handful, have shown unique qualities that set them apart. Some of these coins were struck with unusual die errors, some had doubled features, and others had striking mistakes that made them visually different from their peers. Collectors prize these rare examples because they are the result of chance. Tiny mistakes that were never meant to leave the mint but somehow did. That's what makes them so special. Now imagine this: a coin minted to be worth just 1 cent, spending decades in circulation or hidden away in a collection, eventually being discovered by a keen-eyed collector and then appraised at millions of dollars. That's the story of the rare 1980 Lincoln penny that has stunned the numismatic community with its $11 million value. It is not just the metal that gives it worth. It's not even the fact that it is a penny from 1980. It is the combination of its rarity, condition, and historical significance that has transformed it from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. So what makes the 1980 Lincoln penny so incredibly valuable today? Let's start with rarity. While over 6 billion Lincoln pennies were minted in 1980 across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, only a small fraction have survived in pristine condition. Even fewer have survived with unusual mint errors or unique qualities. One coin in perfect condition, graded by professional grading services at the highest possible level, can attract massive attention from collectors who want nothing less than the best of the best. These kinds of collectors drive up the price in auctions, competing with each other until the final hammer drops at millions of dollars. Another factor is history. Coins are tiny time capsules. They carry with them the history of the era in which they were made. A 1980 Lincoln penny speaks of an America on the edge of the Reagan era, a country facing inflation, economic uncertainty, and shifting political tides. It was a time when the penny was still made primarily of copper, just before the transition in 1982 when the U.S. Mint switched to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. That alone makes pennies minted before 1982 special to collectors, because they contain more copper and feel more substantial in the hand. The 1980 Lincoln penny is part of the final era of full copper cents, adding another layer of significance to its story. Condition is everything in the coin world. A penny that has been passed around for decades, scratched, worn, and dulled, might only be worth face value. But a penny that was never circulated, preserved in a pristine state with no scratches, sharp details, and brilliant luster can be worth thousands, even millions. The rare 1980 Lincoln penny that reached the $11 million mark was in flawless condition. Experts examined it under magnification and determined that it had virtually no imperfections. Coins like this are considered museum pieces, and once they are discovered, they rarely change hands except at prestigious auctions. But beyond rarity, history, and condition, there is also something magical about coins like this. They inspire the imagination. They make people wonder how many other hidden treasures might be out there in jars of pennies, in old coffee cans, in shoeboxes tucked away in attics and basements. That's why collectors and everyday people alike continue to search through their change, hoping to stumble across one of these treasures. The story of the 1980 penny worth $11 million fuels that hope. Let's also talk about errors. Error coins are some of the most valuable in the collecting world. They include coins that were struck off-center, coins with double dies where the design appears doubled, coins struck on the wrong planchets, or coins that have unusual mint marks. These mistakes make each error coin unique, almost like a fingerprint, and collectors love them for that reason. Some 1980 pennies are known to have doubling on the obverse, particularly in the date and in the lettering around the coin. Others have striking anomalies that make them stand out. When one of these rare error pennies also happens to be in pristine condition, the value skyrockets. Now imagine this scenario. A collector, perhaps an ordinary person sorting through rolls of pennies from the bank, suddenly notices something unusual about a coin. Maybe the details look sharper, maybe the date looks doubled, maybe the strike is so perfect it seems like it was minted yesterday. That coin, once authenticated and graded, could turn out to be worth millions. This has actually happened many times in coin collecting history. Everyday people discover rare coins by accident, and their lives change overnight. The 1980 Lincoln penny that sold for $11 million is one of those incredible stories. It's important to understand that the coin market works like any other market. Values are determined by supply and demand. When demand for a certain rare coin outstrips the supply, prices rise. The most unique coins, the ones that combine rarity, error, pristine condition, and historical significance, are the ones that reach astronomical values. Wealthy collectors, investors, and museums compete to own them, and that competition drives the price even higher. That is exactly what happened with the rare 1980 penny. It became the star of an auction, and bidders pushed the price up to an unbelievable $11 million. The question that many people ask is this: how can a penny be worth more than a mansion, more than a luxury sports car, even more than a private jet? The answer lies in the nature of collecting itself. Collectors are not just buying metal. They are buying history. They are buying rarity. There are only so many famous paintings in the world, and that is why they sell for hundreds of millions. There are only so many rare stamps, rare baseball cards, rare works of art. And there are only so many rare pennies. The 1980 Lincoln penny is now in that elite category. It is no longer just money. It has become art, history, and investment all rolled into one tiny coin. This leads us to the exciting possibility that there are still undiscovered treasures out there. Maybe in your pocket change. Maybe in that jar of coins in your kitchen. Maybe in an old collection passed down from a relative. Somewhere out there, another rare penny could be hiding, waiting for someone to notice it. That is the thrill of coin collecting. The possibility of finding something priceless in the most ordinary of places. So what should you look for if you want to find one of these treasures? Start by checking the date. Look for 1980 pennies with the D mint mark under the date. Next, examine the coin closely. Is the strike sharp? Are there any unusual doubling features in the date, or the lettering? Does the coin look flawless, with no scratches or wear? If you find one that stands out, it may be worth sending to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. These organizations can officially grade your coin and certify its value, which is essential if you ever plan to sell it. The world of rare coins is one of endless fascination, and the story of the 1980 Lincoln penny is proof of that. From a coin worth 1 cent to a treasure valued at $11 million, it is a journey that shows us how history, rarity, condition, and human passion can turn the smallest piece of change into something beyond imagination. And who knows? The next time you go through your change, you might just be holding a fortune in your hand. Welcome back to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins. Today we are going to talk about one of the most mysterious, talked about, and highly valuable coins ever to be discovered in modern United States coinage. This is the story of the 1992 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a coin that on the surface may look like any other penny that you might see in your pocket change, but in reality, it has a story worth millions. And when I say millions, I mean it literally, because the current market value of this coin has reached an unbelievable $9 million. Now, let's slow down and really take in what that means. Imagine holding a simple 1-cent penny, a coin that most of us ignore, toss into jars, or leave sitting around in drawers. To think that such a small coin could be worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or even a lifetime of salaries is astonishing. But that is exactly what makes coin collecting and numismatics so fascinating. It's not just about money, it's about history, rarity, and mystery. Every coin tells a story, and some of those stories can change lives forever. The 1992 no-mint mark Lincoln penny stands as one of those life-changing discoveries. First, let's talk about what makes this coin so special. Normally, United States pennies bear a mint mark, which is a tiny letter found just below the date that tells us where the coin was produced. A P stands for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, and an S for San Francisco. In the case of the 1992 penny, most coins were struck with either a D or a P mint mark. So, when you find one without a mint mark, it instantly raises the question, why? Was it an error? Was it intentional? Or was it something much rarer, a transitional variety that slipped through the cracks of history? Collectors know that no mint mark coins, especially those struck in years where a mint mark was expected, are extremely rare. The absence of that tiny letter means something unusual happened at the mint, and that tiny detail can make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $9 million. The no mint mark error for 1992 is not only rare, but it is also surrounded by mystery because very few examples have been confirmed. The scarcity of this coin is part of what makes it so valuable. Now, you might be wondering how such a simple oversight can translate into millions of dollars in value. The answer lies in supply and demand. There are millions of collectors across the world, many of whom are chasing down rare coins to complete their collections. When a coin is both extremely rare and historically significant, the demand skyrockets. Combine that with the fact that only a handful of collectors will ever be able to own one, and you end up with a bidding war that drives prices higher and higher until we reach figures like $9 million. Let's take a moment to think about what $9 million represents. For some people, it could be generational wealth. It could mean retiring early, buying a dream home, traveling the world, or securing your family's future for decades to come. And all of this from a penny, the lowest denomination of US currency. It's a reminder that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, right in your pocket change, and that is why coin collectors always advise people to check their coins carefully. The design of the 1992 Lincoln penny is the same as other pennies of its era. On the obverse side, you see the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, which has been a staple on US 1-cent coins since 1909. On the reverse, you see the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was first introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. So visually, the coin does not stand out at first glance. The real difference, the magic, lies in the missing mint mark. That is the detail that transforms it from ordinary to extraordinary. For collectors, authentication is key. If you believe you've found a 1992 penny with no mint mark, you need to have it professionally graded and certified by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations use experts and high-powered equipment to verify whether the coin is genuine. Once it is authenticated, it can be entered into auctions where wealthy collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices for the chance to own one of the rarest pennies in American history. But let's not just talk about the money side. The historical side is equally fascinating. Every coin is a little piece of history that tells us about the era in which it was made. In 1992, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year, and quality control was generally very tight. The fact that an era like this slipped through shows us that even in the most controlled environments, mistakes can happen. And sometimes those mistakes lead to treasures that collectors dream about. Imagine being the person who first discovered this coin. At the time, it might not have seemed like much. Maybe they just noticed something odd about the coin and decided to look closer. But as news spread and collectors realized how rare it was, the value grew and grew until it reached the jaw-dropping $9 million figure we see today. This is a perfect example of why coin hunting is so thrilling. You never know what you might find in your change after buying a cup of coffee or paying at the grocery store. Now, let's paint a picture of how this plays out in real life. Picture someone sitting down at their kitchen table with a handful of loose change. They slowly skim through the coins, looking at dates and mint marks, not expecting much. Then suddenly, they see a 1992 penny that doesn't seem to have a mint mark. Their heart skips a beat. Could it really be one of the rarest pennies ever struck? They grab a magnifying glass, double-check it, and then send it off for authentication. Weeks later, the results come back confirming it's real. That single moment could change their life forever. Collectors always say that knowledge is power. By knowing what to look for, you give yourself the best chance of finding something valuable. Most people overlook pennies. They think they are worthless, too common to be interesting. But in reality, the penny has produced some of the most legendary rarities in all of coin collecting history. From the 1909 SVDB to the 1943 copper penny, and now the 1992 no-mint mark, each one has become a holy grail for collectors, fetching millions of dollars. So how do you increase your chances of finding one? The key is patience, persistence, and education. Go through your pocket change, buy rolls of pennies from the bank, and take your time carefully checking each coin. Pay attention to the dates and the mint marks. Keep a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe handy, because sometimes the difference between an ordinary coin and a multi-million-dollar treasure can be incredibly subtle. It's also worth remembering that condition plays a huge role in value. A coin that is uncirculated, shiny, and free from scratches or wear will always be worth more than one that is beat up and damaged. So when searching, look for coins in the best condition possible. But even if a coin has some wear, if it's one of the extremely rare 1992 no-mint mark pennies, it's still going to be worth a fortune. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's reflect on the incredible journey of this coin. From its humble beginnings in 1992 as just another penny rolling off the minting presses, to its rise as one of the rarest and most valuable coins in history, the story of the 1992 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is truly inspiring. It proves that hidden treasures are out there, waiting to be discovered by anyone with a sharp eye and a little bit of luck. So the next time you get change back from a store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Take a moment to look at them closely. You never know when you might be holding a coin that could change your life. The 1992 no-mint mark penny is a perfect reminder that sometimes, the most ordinary-looking things can have the most extraordinary value. And with its current market value of $9 million, this coin has cemented its place in history as one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Who knows, maybe the next one will be found by someone watching this very video. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into the story of one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. What makes this coin so incredibly valuable, to the point where it can fetch an unbelievable $7 million on today's market, is not just its age, but the mystery, the rarity, the condition, and the powerful demand from collectors all around the world. If you are a coin enthusiast, an investor, or simply someone who loves hidden treasures in everyday life, then this is a coin you need to know about. The Lincoln cent has been an American icon since its first release in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it replaced the Indian head cent and introduced a new era of U.S. coinage, one that celebrated a real historical figure. The design of the Lincoln cent has remained one of the longest running in American history. By the year 1978, nearly 7 decades had passed since the first Lincoln penny rolled off the presses, and billions of these coins had been minted. Because of this massive mintage, it would seem that the 1978 penny should be common, ordinary, and worth no more than face value. But sometimes, history leaves behind anomalies, and those anomalies turn into treasures worth millions. The 1978 penny was struck at multiple mint locations, most notably in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carried the small letter D under the date, while coins from San Francisco bore the S. Philadelphia traditionally did not use a mint mark during this period, which is why the 1978 no mint mark penny technically refers to the Philadelphia issues. But what makes one specific example of the 1978 no mint mark penny so special that it reached an astronomical $7 million in valuation is the perfect combination of rarity, historical intrigue, and extraordinary preservation. Let's talk about what collectors look for when it comes to value. First, there's rarity. A coin can only fetch millions if it is extremely difficult to find in the same condition. With the 1978 penny, the majority were used in circulation, traded countless times, worn down, scratched, and damaged. Very few survived in pristine, mint state condition. Now imagine finding one that not only survived in flawless form, but also displayed unique characteristics that set it apart from the rest. That's what happened with this coin. It's not just a penny. It's an irreplaceable relic of American numismatic history. Second, let's discuss condition and grading. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, ranging from poor, which is practically unrecognizable, to mint state and beyond, which means nearly perfect condition. A 1978 penny in worn condition may only be worth a cent, maybe a few dollars to a collector who wants to fill a slot in a folder. But when you encounter a specimen graded MS-67 or MS-68, or even reaching the legendary proof-like quality, the price skyrockets. This $7 million penny represents the highest standard of perfection imaginable, essentially flawless under magnification, shimmering as though it had just left the press yesterday. Third, let's explore the historical backdrop. The year 1978 was a turning point in American history. The country was facing economic changes, inflation, and political shifts. In coinage, it was a transition era, just a year before the Susan B. Anthony dollar was introduced, and just a few years before the Lincoln Memorial cent design would start to be scrutinized and later replaced in 2009 with the bicentennial redesigns. Owning a coin from this period is owning a piece of American history. But owning a one-of-a-kind treasure like the $7 million 1978 penny means holding history in your hand in its most perfect form. Now let's consider how a coin like this could possibly reach the level of $7 million. It comes down to supply and demand. Billionaire collectors, high-profile investors, and museums around the world are always seeking the rarest, most pristine examples of American coinage. When only one or two coins in existence meet that standard, a bidding war breaks out. Auction houses report record sales, and the value soars far beyond what most people could imagine for a 1-cent coin. This 1978 penny is not just a coin. It's a trophy. It's a symbol of rarity, of perfection, and of the dedication collectors have to owning something no one else can. Imagine for a moment finding a 1978 penny in your change. Most people would toss it aside, never giving it a second thought. But for the trained eye, for the person who knows what to look for, that tiny disc of copper could mean financial freedom. And that's why coin collecting is such a thrilling hobby. Because the treasures are out there. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize them. When you examine the 1978 penny closely, there are a few characteristics to note. The obverse shows the bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the word liberty to the left, and the date 1978 to the right. Above is the motto "In God We Trust." The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America at the top, E pluribus unum above the memorial, and 1 cent at the bottom. Billions of these coins were struck, but what makes this $7 million example different is the absence of flaws, the razor-sharp strike, the rich luster, and in some cases subtle variations that could indicate a unique die or striking anomaly. Another important factor that can increase the value is provenance. This means the ownership history of the coin. When a coin passes through famous collections, auction houses, or is highlighted in numismatic literature, its prestige increases. Collectors want not only the coin, but the story behind it. The 1978 penny valued at $7 million has a history of being featured in major auctions, generating headlines, and drawing crowds of curious onlookers. It's not just a penny. It's an icon in the world of rare coins. Collectors also value the emotional connection. Abraham Lincoln, one of the most beloved presidents, represents freedom, unity, and resilience. Having his image on the nation's smallest denomination carries symbolic weight. The fact that the smallest denomination can reach the highest levels of value demonstrates the extraordinary power of history and symbolism combined. Now, many people ask, how do I know if I have one of these valuable coins? The answer is to start by looking through your change, searching through old jars, or revisiting collections handed down from parents or grandparents. Focus on the date, the mint mark, and the condition. If you come across a 1978 penny that looks sharp, uncirculated, and free of wear, don't dismiss it. Handle it carefully, avoid touching the surfaces, and consider submitting it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies will certify the authenticity and condition of your coin, which is essential for determining its true market value. The story of the $7 million 1978 penny is also a reminder that value is not just in gold and silver. Even a simple copper coin can reach legendary status when the right factors align. Rarity, condition, demand, and history combine to transform what was once pocket change into a masterpiece worth millions. Think of the possibilities. A single coin the size of your fingertip could buy luxury cars, a mansion, or secure your financial future forever. That is the magic of numismatics. That is why collectors dedicate their lives to searching, studying, and preserving coins. And that is why the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will forever be remembered as one of the most valuable treasures in American history. So next time you see a penny lying on the ground, don't just walk past it. Take a closer look. Because hidden in plain sight could be a fortune, a story, and a piece of history that could change your life forever. Welcome back everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change. Today, we are talking about one of the most astonishing and jaw-dropping discoveries in the entire history of coin collecting. This is the story of the 1994 D-Mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a coin that looks so ordinary at first glance, yet its true value can skyrocket into the millions. That's right, we are talking about a penny, a simple 1-cent coin, that currently carries a market value of an unbelievable $11 million. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would pass off as just 1 cent, but in reality, it could change your life forever. The Lincoln penny has been one of the most iconic coins in American history since it was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Over the decades, billions of Lincoln cents have been struck by the U.S. Mint, making them one of the most commonly used and recognized coins in the world. But within these billions, there are always a few that stand out because of minting errors, unique features, or rare conditions. These coins are not just currency anymore, they are collectibles, historical artifacts, and investments worth millions of dollars. Now, the 1994 D penny was minted in Denver, as signified by the D mint mark just below the date on the coin. At first glance, it looks exactly like any other penny struck in that year. It has Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, with the words "In God We Trust" across the top, Liberty to the left, and the date 1994 along with the D mint mark just below it. On the reverse, it features the Lincoln Memorial, which was standard on pennies from 1959 until 2008. So you might ask, what makes this 1-cent coin stand out to the point where it commands a value of $11 million? The answer lies in a combination of extreme rarity, minting anomalies, condition, and collector demand. You see, in the world of numismatics, the tiniest difference can make the biggest impact. A double die, an off-center strike, a missing mint mark, or even the kind of planchet used can transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. For the 1994 D penny, the story is one of remarkable error and survival. Most of the 1994 D pennies were mass-produced in the billions, struck and circulated like any other. But only a handful of extremely rare variations are believed to exist, and they exhibit striking differences that numismatists can't ignore. The first thing to understand is that coin collectors and grading agencies like PCGS and NGC examine coins in incredible detail. They look at strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and any unusual features. When the 1994 D penny in question was discovered, it shocked experts because it showed characteristics that should never have left the mint. Some of these coins are believed to have been struck on experimental planchets, giving them a distinct metallic appearance and texture compared to the standard copper-plated zinc composition. Others show doubling in the lettering, particularly on the date and the motto, which increases their rarity. To top it all off, the coin in question was preserved in immaculate condition, graded at the highest level possible. That combination of rarity, perfection, and historical intrigue is what drove the value of this coin into the multi-million-dollar range. Think about it for a moment. $11 million for a penny. That's a life-changing sum of money, the kind of wealth that could buy a mansion, exotic cars, vacations around the world, or secure your family's future for generations. And yet, that coin could be lying unnoticed in a box of loose change, sitting in a drawer, or even in a coin jar that hasn't been touched for years. That's why collectors and treasure hunters are so fascinated with pennies like the 1994 D. It's not just about owning a coin, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that you might stumble upon something extraordinary where you least expect it. Now let's talk about the history of the Lincoln penny leading up to 1994, because context is everything. From 1909 until 1958, the reverse design featured wheat stalks, known as the wheat penny. Those coins are collectible in their own right, and certain years and mint eras can fetch tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. In 1959, to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 50th anniversary of the penny, the design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. This was the design in circulation in 1994. By that time, the penny had transitioned from being made of mostly copper to being composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, a change that occurred in 1982 due to rising copper prices. These material changes also opened up the possibility for unusual minting errors, because coins sometimes ended up being struck on older copper planchets or on planchets intended for other denominations. When we look at coins from the 1990s, most people don't consider them to be rare, simply because they were minted in such enormous numbers. But that's the beauty of the coin world. Rarity isn't always about age, it's about anomalies. A coin from the 1700s might be rare because of its age and survival, but a coin from the 1990s can be just as valuable if it exhibits an error or uniqueness that makes it one of only a handful in existence. The 1994 D penny that reached the staggering market value of $11 million is exactly that kind of coin. Imagine the auction floor when one of these coins appears. Collectors from around the world gather, each one eager to add such a legendary piece to their collection. The bidding starts high, but it climbs quickly as numismatists realize the opportunity before them. The room grows tense, the bids go higher and higher, and finally the hammer drops at an unimaginable figure. $11 million. The audience erupts, and history is made. That coin becomes not just a piece of currency, but a legend in the numismatic world, cementing its place as one of the most valuable pennies ever to exist. Now, if you're wondering how you can identify a potentially valuable 1994 D penny, here are some key things to look for. First, always check the mint mark and the date. The D mint mark indicates Denver, but what you're really looking for are unusual features. Examine the coin under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date 1994. Do you see any doubling or distortion? Check the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Doubling in the letters can indicate a double die error, which can make the coin extremely valuable. Next, look at the reverse. Are the lines of the Lincoln Memorial crisp, or do they show signs of unusual striking? Sometimes off-center strikes or other anomalies can increase value. Also, pay attention to the overall condition. A coin that has been heavily circulated is unlikely to reach astronomical value, but a coin that looks nearly untouched, with sharp details and minimal marks, could be worth investigating. collectors also send their coins to professional grading services for authentication. If you believe you have a rare coin, it's always best to have it graded and certified by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Their certification not only guarantees authenticity but also provides a grade that significantly impacts market value. A coin graded mint state 70, which means perfect condition, is the pinnacle for collectors and can multiply the coin's worth many times over. But let's pause for a second and think about what makes these coins so special to people beyond just the price tag. Owning a coin like the 1994 penny is about owning a piece of history, a symbol of the unexpected treasures hidden in everyday life. It reminds us that even the smallest and most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value. That's why collectors are so passionate. Every time you look at your pocket change, there's a spark of possibility. Maybe today's the day you find that one coin that changes everything. The 1994 Lincoln penny valued at $11 million is more than just a coin. It's a cultural phenomenon. It tells a story of minting errors, rarity, the passion of collectors, and the magic of discovery. It inspires people to pay closer attention to what they have, to treasure the small details, and to never underestimate the value of the seemingly ordinary. And perhaps most importantly, it keeps alive the thrill of the hunt. Because for every coin collector, the dream is the same: to one day find a coin that turns out to be a priceless treasure. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the 1994 Lincoln penny, remember this: always check your change. Always keep an eye out for those small anomalies, those tiny differences that most people overlook. Because one day, you might be the person who stumbles upon a penny that isn't worth just 1 cent, but $11 million. And when that day comes, your life will never be the same again.